Well, hey everybody, welcome to Grace at Night, Back to School Edition. I'm so excited to have Laina, you guys know her, she's awesome, as my guest today. And we're just gonna talk about anything and everything, and hopefully you'll find it entertaining, you'll glean some wisdom from it, and we'll all feel a little better at the end of the day. So, Laina, who are you?
Well, my name's Laina Vaughn, and I just graduated high school this past year. I have been going to Grace for about 6 years, and I went to another church for pretty much my whole life, and it flooded in Harvey, and we started kind of looking around.
Oh, snap, okay.
Yeah, and so we church hopped for a long time, which is tough, and we kind of found Grace, and we loved the teaching, and I was terrified of the big church because I was used to this tiny church.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. And here I was with, the student ministry of 6 times the size of my my previous one, and but it stuck, and here I am, and I'm around. Y'all probably seen me around.
Yes, all over the place. So you are one of the middle children, right?
Yes, I have 6 siblings.
Wow.
And I'm the middle child, 3 older, 3 younger.
Oh, so you're actually
I'm
like the middle.
Smack in the middle. Yeah.
How's that?
That is a party. It's a party. I love having a big family. It's never boring, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me about what you're doing in a month.
I get to have the opportunity to go to a Bible school in England. It's in northern England in the countryside, this beautiful, beautiful campus. It's like a castle. It's so pretty. I'm excited.
Awesome.
And I just get to dive into God's word and meet people from literally all over the world. It's more of an international school, actually. There's some locals who go to it, but for the most part, it's international. So I get to meet people from literally everywhere. We have this Facebook group they started.
Oh, already?
To
That's awesome.
get to, just who are you? Where are you from? And Germany, Russia, Africa, South America, everywhere,
cool.
all over Europe.
Yeah.
I'm
assuming
it's crazy.
Since it's in England, the lingua franca is going to be English.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, yes.
Okay,
but,
cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's, one of my favorite things about meeting people from different places. You mentioned Russia.
Yeah.
Obviously there's international stuff going on with Russia.
Yeah.
But it's most of the people on the ground are, I don't know, I'm Taiwanese, so with this whole Russian thing happening, there's a lot of talk about is China going to absorb Taiwan? But realistically, people until it happens, it's just I don't want to worry about it,
Yeah.
But I also feel whenever you meet someone who's international or from somewhere where you hear a lot in the news, Iran, North Korea or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You have an impression, and then you actually meet them. It's just well,
you're just a person.
We're just a person. We're just kind of the same.
Yeah.
You like to eat and sleep and and so so. Based on what I just said, what are you most excited about as far as meeting new people from places that I'm assuming you haven't been to yet?
Yeah. Probably just stories, people's stories, because culture shapes so much of who a person is, and I'm just intrigued and curious, because I feel my family, we were missionaries for a while in the Republic of Georgia, which is on the border of Russia and Azerbaijan, when I was 7. So I have some fun memories from that. But I just feel I've been in a bubble, for most of my life. And I'm excited to just see who else is there, and I know they're just people, but they're people who have a completely different life experience from me, you know, and who love Jesus, and how do they love Jesus differently than I do, because they have a different culture and experience. So I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by people's individual interpretations of faith based on their culture. And I know you're very aware of this, but somewhat the whitewashing of Jesus in America. Sure. There's a lot of just stuff that we don't really get to experience, and it's and we might find weird because it's just a different culture. But I feel definitely that culture and language shape maybe not necessarily the story itself or the facts themselves, but they do shape your perhaps interpretation or behavior towards them. So like an example of this would be like corporate worship. What does that look like in a country where it's legal versus illegal, right? And so like your idea of church totally changes whenever you're in China, for example, versus when you're here.
Definitely.
Yeah. So so that's really exciting. Thank you for doing that. That's something that's awesome.
I'm excited.
So tell me a little bit more about like what is the number one thing you are thinking about right now? Like, what's the biggest thing on your mind other than like this new life stage you're about to enter into?
Oh man, there's a lot. I'm a overthinker for sure. I mean, it's a gift sometimes, and sometimes it's just like all of the things.
Right.
Probably the biggest thing on my mind right now is like the future, which is like hard for me because I'm really trying hard right now to like learn how to be content in a season. And that's like, I don't know, it's like I think I've always been like looking forward, you know, and then it's the next thing, and like now I have something I knew I need to look forward to, you know, and like I want to just be like patient and content in a season. And so I mean that's honestly been on my mind a lot, and just like, I mean, relationships change so much over like this particular season of life. Like you graduate high school and you're in the in-between between like that and like being an adult. And so like I love my family, but it just changes, you know, you're becoming your own person. And so it's like, I don't know, there's like some pulling apart of each other that's natural and good, but hard. And
is there a codification for the word in between yet? Like I'm an in between. Like,
I don't know.
That sounds like a metal band almost. Like that's pretty epic.
Yeah, the in between.
You know, so I've noticed, at least in my life, every time I feel content with where I am, that's when God tells me it's time to go. Yeah. Like, you know, so I don't know if you know like my story at all, but like there was a period when I was first on staff at Grace from 2015 to 2018. It was great. I mean, it's a great job. It's, you know, like if I'm totally honest, I love working at church. I love the people here. I love what I was doing. This is
not an ad.
And then, we got 4 open positions right now. But I remember there was a solid 6 months right before I left, where I was like, oh, I'm so happy, but I'm too happy. Like I'm too comfortable in this. I'm too satisfied with my life. Yeah. And I'm afraid that I'm just not going to need God anymore because of how comfortable I am. Yeah. And like, if I'm totally brutally honest, I feel that's a lot of people. Like I feel that's a ton of people even here at Grace. And I'm not like judging or anything, but it's like, when do you feel like is the time for you to go? Like, have you had any like signs or open doors? For me, it was a lot of open doors. Things that just miraculously happen. It's like, okay, fine. This is something God, I should probably listen to. But anything like that happened recently?
So I feel like, I'm going to backtrack for a second before I answer that. Sure. I feel like in terms of like comfort, I think that there's a big difference between like comfort and like contentment, as in terms of like you can be stagnant in like comfort, you know, because you're just like, okay, this is nice. I don't really want things to change because I like it here. And then like content, like, okay, God, like I trust that you're in this season and I'm here for what you have for me. Right. But I'm always like seeking you. I think there's a difference. And I that's good. You're right. Yeah. But yeah, I never want to be comfortable, you know. I don't want to be stagnant, but I want to be like okay with also just like taking in what God has for me in one place, so that I'm not constantly like, what's next, you know? Right. But in terms of like being sure, it's really funny because like with like the England thing, I felt like super sure and confident that that's what God has called me to for like 3 years. So like everyone's asking you like, so what do you want to do after high school, you know? And like that's the question. It cracks me up, like that's the question. And like I've just like felt like I've known for 3 years, which is great. And a lot of people are like, oh, like that must be nice, you know? And it is nice, but like I think that God's confirmed it mostly through like people actually, like who have just been like, I don't know, like God put this on my heart to tell you, and it somehow like lined up with something I'd been praying. Like there's little instances, and there's like, and then there's just like, I just feel called to it, you know, and calling is a scary big word, and you can get into that, you know, a ton, but like I feel very like confident in it. But with that, like stepping into like, okay, this is something I felt confident in. Like now I'm in it, and that's where I start to think, okay, but like what do I do after this? Because I've been sure for so long of the next step, you know? So I don't know.
Wow. I think that being spontaneous and not being sure of where you're going to go allows you to take risks. Yeah. And I think risks are fun. I'm a risk taker. Yeah. Are you a risk taker?
I like the thrill, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. But if that door opens for you, like it's going to be fine. Yeah. I think about when I was in college, I went to UT Austin. And Austin's one of the few places, actually maybe the only place on planet Earth that I've been to / lived where I felt totally comfortable hitchhiking.
Really?
Oh yeah, I liked it because I didn't have a car. My bike was stolen. I worked in
Austin. It was stolen in Austin.
It was stolen in Austin. Yeah,
and you felt comfortable hitchhiking.
Well, I was dumb though. Like I put the bike next to so I was a bartender. Okay. And I would get to work at like 6 p.m. or something, and then get out at 2 a.m. And it was on 6th Street, which is like the party central.
The party town, party street.
So I put my bike like just behind a dumpster, basically. And it was like this brand new bike, and I had it for like a month, and it got stolen. I was super sad. But point of the story is, I had a 4-mile commute back to my apartment, and I would walk every night from 2 a.m. like at 2 a.m. through Austin, and then like at one point, I think like when it got too cold, I was just like, whatever, and I stuck my thumb out and I would hitchhike. They stopped. And yeah, and people would stop, and it's like Austin's just a very friendly place for that kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. I always felt safe doing it. Yeah. But, and this might be like totally irresponsible, but I always felt that like, you know what? Like if someone was willing to pick me up, this is an encounter. Yeah. This is someone that God wanted to place in front of my life. So the last time I ever hitchhiked, I was caught in the middle of a heroin deal. It was really strange too, because the guy who picked me up was this guy named Frank. I remember him because he had this fedora. He was an older gentleman. But the reason why I recognized him was because like a week before, like Austin's a pretty small town, or it was. Yeah. So you run into people a lot, especially if they hang around downtown. And I was at a CVS, and he was shoplifting. And I like accidentally helped him shoplift because it was a weird situation, like some sunglasses or something. Yeah. So like I got to talk to him, I got to know him, whatever. Yeah. So a week later, it was like 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. I was in the middle of downtown Austin, and I wanted to hitchhike, and he was like, "Ben!" I was like, "Frank!" And he picked me up, and he was like, "Hey, can we make a stop?" And we ended up. And it was a drug deal. So that was the last time I hitchhiked in Austin.
That was the last time.
But like I'll never forget Frank. And I hope that the couple of times that we were in each other's company was enough for me to show him a little bit of Jesus. Whatever that means, you know? And I hope that like, 10 years from now when I'm back in Austin, I'll run into him again and see what might happen. But I just feel like chance encounters like that are so special and don't happen unless you're willing to make the jump. So I really hope that you'll get lots of those in England. Have you been to England before?
I haven't. Oh, it's like brand new, and I also convinced my parents to let me fly by myself, which was process.
Yeah. So are you just like taking a satchel and just getting over there,
So basically I like came up to my mom when we were talking about flights and stuff, and I was like, "Mom, I love you with my whole heart, and I really want to do this by myself." And she was like, "I love you too, and that's scary." Wow. And so we talked for a while. My dad was like, "Sure, do whatever, Yeah. But we convinced my mom, and I'm basically just like getting on a plane with my guitar and
cool.
like a carry-on, and then I'm
Are
checking
you
a bag.
stuffing all your clothes into your guitar?
No. But my sister was like, you should like play in the airport during your layover and see if you can get any money. And I was like, I don't know about that.
Oh, you should. I do it all the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Actually?
Well, because I have my banjo, and it's like usually I'll just play like some bluegrass, like really simple stuff.
And just open your case?
Yeah, open your case. Oh, yeah.
Actually?
So I'm in a band. You know this.
Yeah.
And we, for the beginning, like, decade of our career, we street performed. That was most of what we do. And every time we traveled, we would, like, airport food is expensive.
Oh,
it is ridiculous. So we would always just like busk in the airport, and it's a really ideal. So like kind of couple rules of busking is you kind of want a little bit of traffic. You don't want people to stay there forever because they just like they'll throw a buck and just stay there. So you want foot traffic. You want like good acoustics, and there are good places in the airport. But the airport's just one of the best. Like you could easily make by yourself $100 an hour. Like you could easy. Yeah. If you just
I
play
have,
some
I
stuff.
have an 8-hour layover, so we'll see if I can make
make $800. You could buy like 50 Whoppers from Burger King. You know, like, that's what I would do.
Okay, I might do that.
Yeah, you could easily. Well, and that's one of those things where it's an open door, right?
Yeah.
You have an 8-hour layover. This is your chance. Someone might hear you. You're probably going to sing some worship tunes or something, and you are going to impact someone's life. God is going to put someone in front of you who needed to listen to you at 3 a.m. in the airport or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I encourage you.
Yeah. Be spontaneous. Yeah.
Like, who's going to care? Who's going to
No
judge,
one's going to care, yeah.
Okay. So, wow. I'm actually a little surprised that it's harder for your mom. Like, I feel as a father of a daughter.
Yeah.
That sounded weird. That it would be harder. But I've interviewed your dad before. I can totally see him being like, she'll be fine.
She'll be okay.
Yeah, like he's like,
I'd go with the flow.
Right, I've done my part. And,
for sure.
Wow. Yeah. Anything you're particularly nervous about? Have you been to Europe before? All right, outside of Georgia.
Outside of Georgia, I haven't.
Okay.
No. I mean, that's really... that's the only place I've been outside of the U.S.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. So anything that you're nervous about or that you want prayer for, like, how can we be supporting you in your life stage?
I wouldn't necessarily say I'm nervous because I'm just so excited.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely.
I mean, I'm sure there will be like stages of it, that come while it's happening. I don't really feel so nervous right now. The only thing I'm like anticipating is like, and everyone who's gone to the school who I've talked to has been like, yeah, this happens. So like, just be ready for it. It's like a couple weeks of just extreme homesickness. Yeah. And like, I just know that's,
I feel like it's pretty common for college in general.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so, that would be probably the only thing, but I'm like super eager and like, it's a super small school. It's only like 150 students. So it's tiny. Mm-hmm. And so you like everyone's kind of in the same spot. Sure. Everyone's from everywhere and no one has anyone. So everyone just, you link really quickly to people because you're like, I need someone, and like there they are and they're in the same boat. So I'm not necessarily afraid, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, cool. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on you're a full decade younger than me. Like, what are your thoughts on? And clearly, you're going into, to some degree, vocational ministry, or like what? How do you see the future of the church? 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
That's a big question.
And also, like, what do you want to see from it? I've got my own thoughts on this, so I want to hear you out first, and then I'll talk.
Okay. That's a big question. It's a big thing. What I want to see is maybe a change in corporate worship in some ways.
Okay.
I think we cater a lot to I'm trying to word this right. We cater a lot to unbelievers. Mm-hmm. And like, okay, like we got to do it this way so that if an unbeliever walks in, they feel safe, or they feel comfortable. And like, I think that there's a piece of that 100% because our goal is to like bring people into the body. of Christ. But I think also, like, God can market for himself. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't have to, like, do so, I mean, other than being evangelists, we don't have to, like, put on a show for unbelievers to be like, this is Christianity and this is how great it is, you know? This is like the church and it's tons of fun and like you unbeliever will fit right in, you know?
That's so interesting because I definitely came to church for the first time because I wanted to. That was like 2004.
Yeah.
Not because I saw a flyer or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that people who are hungry, who are seeking, will find, you know? I mean, God says that. Yeah. But like, I mean, and I know this isn't like a one size fits all, and I really don't even know what it looks like necessarily because, I mean, you obviously want people to feel welcomed and loved. I don't mean that. I just mean like, in what ways do we try to like put on a show for like, this is how great the church is, you know, or this is like, it's, you know, especially for like young people. Yeah. And I really think that like God deserves like pure worship. He deserves like people who love him telling him who he is, you know, and like we're made for his glory. And so like, we don't need to like make it something different than it is, you know?
And that's what you envision corporate worship.
I mean, that would be the hope of like, but I don't really know what would change. I don't really know what needs to change. So, I mean, those are just kind of like
big ideas
and like thoughts and getting practical with that would take lots of time and lots of prayer. It's just like, I mean, just some thoughts I've had. And I think that like, I love the heart specifically of this church in corporate worship. I think that the desire is like, we don't want to like make this be something that it's not so that people are comfortable because sin is uncomfortable, you know, like separation from God is just uncomfortable, you know? And so when you're in his presence and you're separated from God, it's, you know,
very awkward.
Yeah, a little awkward. And so like, it shouldn't be comfortable necessarily for people who are apart from God. It should be welcoming and loving. And we should show the love of Christ, you know, we should be ambassadors to him. Yeah. But it should still be uncomfortable. Sin should still be uncomfortable.
Yeah. You know? I mean, I think it's I think what's the word? Uncomfortability? Is that a word? Uncomfortableness?
Yeah.
Is a really positive thing. Like kind of we said, right? Yeah. And it's not discontentment, but it's like being uncomfortable. It's like, okay, where does God want me next? What area of my life is God working on? You know, we are not perfect and will never be. And so like I kind of enjoy the guiding light, if you will. It's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, today I should work on this, or like this season of my life, I need to work on this on myself. And to be able to lean on God for that is a really beautiful thing. Yeah. But I do feel like sometimes in big church, we are encouraged to maybe not do that. Like maybe it's just like, hey, come in and listen and enjoy. Yeah. And not so much reflect and work on and do what we're really supposed to do, which is like we're singing back to him. Yeah. It's not so much all about me or all about my happiness here.
Yeah. And maybe that just means like that, like the like circle of the body. Maybe corporate worship is for like bringing in the unbeliever. Maybe that's what it is for. But like if you don't have like something else, you know, then like there's probably you probably need that, you know. Right. For me, that's been the prayer room. Right. Like
and I was gonna
that
jump
community
into that.
Is like what fills me, because it's people who know God, you know, who are seeking God, and we seek him together, and that's like beautiful, and that's really what fills me. Like I like corporate worship is great, and I love to be there, and I love to worship with people, but I feel filled by that community. You know what I mean? Because they're like seeking hard after God. Right. Not that they're not in corporate worship, but like it's it's closer knit, you know?
Right.
It's, different.
So why do you feel like, why do you think that corporate worship is just such a bigger thing? Like in my mind, it would make more sense. Like the simpler thing is the prayer room, really.
Oh yeah,
like, and the like I feel like the prayer room and kind of what you're describing is a tighter community. Mm-hmm. It is more fulfilling to believers, I guess.
Yeah.
It is all about worshiping and doing what we're really supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it's like such a hard thing. Like, why is that? You know,
yeah.
From the perspective of what are you 20? 19? I don't know.
I'm 18. Yeah.
Okay, 18. Why is that such a hard thing?
In terms of like, why is corporate worship?
Oh. Why is like, for example, like the Thursday night set or like Monday nights for young adults, right? Mm-hmm. There's like 20 people or something. Yeah,
it's grown a lot.
But like corporate worship has like 1,500. Yeah. So it's like, why is that? It just seems so, I don't know. If someone asked me to choose between like an easy way or a simple way of doing something and a hard way of doing something, like I generally would probably choose the simpler way. Yeah. So it's like, why is it that?
Yeah. I think corporate worship is like, it's like intended for a big audience, you know what I mean? Like, and I think a lot of people don't realize that there is small communities, you know what I mean? Like, I think that, and once you experience it, you're like, oh, I didn't realize I needed this, you know? Like, we've had people come to like our Monday night young adults thing, or like we do worship on Thursday nights, and like they will talk after and be like, I just didn't realize I needed this, because it's just completely different than corporate worship. It's completely different. It's a different thing, you know? And so like when they like experience it, they're like, oh, I just didn't know I needed this, and now I can't get enough, you know? Right. And like, I think people just don't who don't have a community like that, and maybe doesn't look exactly like that, but whatever it is, a small community of believers who are building each other up and really seeking God together. Right. Then I don't really know if you would realize that you were missing out, you know?
Sure. Do you feel like someone, you know, you're speaking to someone who's on the staff of a church.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's maybe like corporately, administratively as a church staff, that's something that we really need to be focusing in on, like creating small communities? But I kind of feel like what you're talking about is not so much like small groups, but small corporate worship communities. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like small groups of people who just love Jesus and want to seek him together. Right. Doesn't mean you have to sit down and do a Bible study. Right. It can mean let's like fellowship together for 2 hours and talk about whatever, and just like be together, and I know your heart and I know you love the Lord, and it's different. It's just different. Or like, let's jump around for 2 hours, which is what we do on Thursday night, and just praise the Lord, you know, because he's worthy of it. Yes. And we don't have to talk, you know, because we're just together in one space giving God glory. You know, I don't think it needs to be, let's sit down and do this Bible study. That could be part of it too. But like, you know, I don't think that's what the formula, you know.
Well, and what do you feel like you young people are desiring? Like, what, you know, I mean, you're a specific type of person. There are people who are going to be different, more reserved, maybe. Yeah. But like, I don't know, my opinion and kind of what I see is that generally speaking, what generation are you? I don't even remember. Are you Gen?
I think I'm Gen Z. I think
okay, Gen Z. Yeah, I'm a millennial, so whatever. Okay, anyways, so like, I feel like Gen Zers are more prone to dismissing formality when it's not necessary, and willing to be more spontaneous, and are favoring relationship over head knowledge. That's a clear distinction I'm seeing between my generation and your generation. Yeah. And you know, knowing that informs, I really believe that the church in 5 years is not going to look like Grace Fellowship. I think it's going to look like a bunch of house churches. And then like Grace Fellowship, the building will be here, but it's just going to be a place for people to hang out 24/7. Yeah. And big things can happen, little things can happen, but there's a space for it. But corporate worship is not going to look anymore like large people gathering to hear someone on stage. It's going to look like the people on stage, instead of facing the house, they're going to be facing the cross, and everyone's going to be
it's good, yeah,
that way, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's what I love so much about like worship too, and like the prayer room. It's so not for anyone, you know? It's literally not for anyone. Yeah. And sometimes it's a mess, and it doesn't matter because it's literally, it's only for God's glory. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just different.
Yeah. So here's a hard question. So how do you balance being excellent in leadership, right, versus that heart that you've got?
Yeah.
You know?
I found it harder in the last year to lead corporately, actually, like in terms of worship. Because I've like sort of like tasted the like simplicity of like an intimate worship time with the Lord, you know? It's like there's so many things that go on in your head when you're leading worship for a corporate, like in a corporate setting. And like I really like I want to like have a humble heart before the Lord. That's like my deepest desire. And it's much easier not to when you're doing corporate worship, you know, when you're like in a space where like how you sound or what you play doesn't really like affect anyone, you know. It's so like you're not thinking, oh, this person's hearing me, like how does my voice sound, you know. It's just like it's only for God's ears. And so it's harder. But I don't know. I definitely have like more thoughts going in my head in terms of myself during like a corporate worship of just like, how am I right now? What do I sound like? What am I, you know what I mean? Sure. And like, it's, because it's different. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. It doesn't mean I don't want to do it or I don't even feel like I should. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. I always find it interesting that like when Jesus was preaching, he was like, standing on a rock. Yeah. You know, and it's like it's just a very, I mean, realistically, like they didn't have the technology to be broadcasting to, well, maybe like acoustics, I don't know. But you couldn't go very far as like he couldn't talk to 1,500 people at once. Yeah. You know, it really had to be small, that's a good point. Intimate kind of gatherings, if you will. Yeah. And it really had to be like you had to know your stuff, or else people would find out really quickly that, you know, just tracing the chain of conversation that like you're just making stuff up, or like you know, like the value of intimacy in spiritual growth and in your relationship with God is something that I feel like is getting lost in corporate worship. I feel like it's really just like even I hope I don't get fired for saying this, but like even like prayer time is like, all right, you got a minute and a half and we got to hurry up because people are getting out, need to pick up their kids and stuff. Like even Jim's on stage, he's like, you know, stay as long as you want unless you got to go pick up your children. Like carving out a space to be unhindered in your worship is necessary, and I feel like that's the future of the church. Like church resources need to go less towards I don't know, whatever and more towards like honestly like security guards for 24/7 access, external bathrooms, like things to make our campus and our people accessible all around, because I feel like the time that unbelievers might need God the most or be seeking him the most it's like nighttime. It's like times when you're just alone and it's dark and you don't know what you're gonna do next. Kind of like, and that's when corporate church, I mean, at least our church, is like most inaccessible, you know. I love the 6 a.m. Monday set. I love the Thursday evening set. Like I love that you're providing spaces for people that I don't know, I feel like probably wouldn't otherwise show up on campus, you know.
Yeah, it's super funny. Like, so to talk about Monday mornings, so we started a 2-hour worship set on Monday mornings from 6 to 8 a.m. and like February of this year, March maybe. And it's literally the first week we did it. It was like 4 musicians, and we just circled our chairs up because no one knew about it. It was just us. Yeah. And like the room was dark, and we just praised for 2 hours. And like it kind of was like that for the first 3 weeks. And sometimes musicians would accidentally sleep in, and sometimes, and there was always at least like 2 or 3 people there, like keeping the fire burning. Right. And then like the first time someone like showed up to come like be there and listen, we were all like, where did you come from? How did you, right. And like, because it's like 6 a.m. on a Monday morning, right. And then we have like, I mean, it's still very small, but we have like at least 2 or 3 people who show up often. Yeah. And it's just like, that is like so filling. Mm-hmm. And like, I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, I mean, what was the church like in the beginning? It wasn't like this. No. It was like a house church, Right. It was small, and it was like close. Mm-hmm. And people provided for each other when they needed it. And, right. They lifted each other and encouraged each other and ministered together and convicted each other. And, right. It was just like, how can you do that with 3,000 people? You can't.
Right. You did life together. Like I go to Taco Tuesday at the Walkers, which everyone's invited to. But one thing that Tyler and I talked about a couple weeks ago is that, I mean, there are a lot of people that go, probably anywhere from 10 to 25 on a given Tuesday, including all the kids. But like, we've never run out of food. Everyone's just always brought what needed to be brought, and that's a really basic thing, but like the fact that like you haven't run this kind of communal living kind of thing, literally living together, and not being like, all right, I'm bringing this, it's like being able to that's doing life together. I feel like a lot of maybe what people understand about how do you grow spiritually? It's like, oh, you do life together. Okay, what does do life together mean? It's like, oh, we're going to do this Bible study together. We're going to meet for an hour once a week, Yeah. It's like doing life together means like, oops, my kid just pooped all over the toilet. Like, can you watch these kids while I clean this mess up? Or it's like doing life is like, hey, can you pick me up at the airport at 5 a.m.? Yeah. It's like, dang it, I really don't want to.
But I love you.
But I love you, and I will. It's not like, yes, absolutely, I'd love to pick you. No, it's like, let's be real about it, right? And that's what doing life together, and it extends to worship. Yeah. Like, there are definitely some Sundays where I'm just like, I don't feel like singing today, and I really need someone to talk to about that. Yeah. And it's that's what doing life to me is.
For sure.
Anyways.
Yeah, it's good.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot in a nutshell. Yeah, let's talk about so musically, you're an amazing musician.
Thank you.
Tell me about your musical journey. What, how'd you start playing guitar? How'd you start singing? Yeah. If your siblings hated you when you started singing, like all that.
So I've sort of always sung,
Okay.
I mean, I just
straight from toddlerhood to,
pretty much. I mean, and I did choir for a long time, which I think was my most vocal training that got me where I am. I've never honestly I'm starting to love music theory, but because it's intriguing to me.
You're one of those people.
I'm not, but what I was gonna say is I learned without theory. I learned because I heard it and I loved it, and I was like, I'm gonna figure it out, But I knew pretty much zero theory. Now I'm starting to understand why I'm playing what I'm playing or what it is, Right. But I didn't. I learned by literally just in my room with a guitar. I never really took lessons.
I feel the best musicians have been that way.
Yeah. Same with piano. I just
Oh, that's around. Cool. Yeah. Piano is usually the gateway instrument for a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. I did that before guitar.
Yeah. I remember when I did piano first. Good little Chinese boy that I am, and then violin, and then junior high happened. I was like, I want to be cool, so my mom bought me a guitar for $100. It was a classical guitar. I was like, this is awesome, and I was playing Green Day and Yellow Card and all
awesome.
all like the pop. I grew up in the pop punk era, and man, it was just great stuff. But yeah, so like, what are you listening to now? Like, what are your favorite?
I am the most like erratic listener. I love like so many kinds of music except country. If you want to talk to me about
really, that's awesome. No, I'm kidding.
I'll talk to you about that. But yeah, but like I love like exploring, and I really am trying to figure out like how to best find obscure artists, because that's like I really like discovering things.
You know what's something that's gonna be really cool for you when you're in England?
Yeah.
Like ask your classmates, like because they're gonna be all over, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I love international
Playlists.
stuff. Yeah, playlists. But so like one of my I don't have time to. I don't watch TV. I don't own a TV.
Yeah.
I don't watch TV shows. I don't watch movies. The only time I ever watch movies, and it really is one of my favorite things in the world, is on airplanes. And so, but the thing is I always watch the international movies because they have like a small selection usually.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to me to see this is what cool people look like in this culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, like ask them about like
For sure.
I love Iranian pop punk. There's like a pop punk scene that's like rising out of Iran, and like I don't understand a lot of it.
Yeah.
But there's also like just really cool, and you've heard like J-pop and K-pop and C-pop and all these Asian pops. But like I just love it when we're able to in many ways transcend cultural barriers through music. Right?
It's just telling a story.
Right, exactly. I almost feel like even if you don't know someone's language, you're able to convey something to them through music.
Yeah,
and that's
for
like
sure.
That's powerful. That's magical. And worship is a lot of that. You know?
Yeah. It's funny because like I really like music where you have to like listen hard to like discover things about it. I'm learning how to like listen to music.
Give me a couple examples.
Oh gosh.
I know Olin loves Tame Impala.
Yeah, it's like
he's an artist that I don't understand. But
it's but that's like intriguing to me. So that kind of like just like where you're like, there's so many layers to this.
Right.
I'll have to show you my playlist later.
Cool.
It's crazy. It's so random. But yeah, I like to just like listen hard. What is your band like?
We're
what
technically
are they called?
Folk rock.
Folk.
We're called Streetlight Kids, but like folk. I don't know. Folk is like a really broad term.
I know
nowadays.
It's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah. People. It's like as long as you're acoustic, you're folk sometimes, or like if you sound like Mumford and Sons.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've always understood pop music.
Yeah.
To be not necessarily what's the most popular thing at the time.
Yeah.
Even though I guess that's kind of how the Billboard charts describe it.
Yeah.
But it's like pop music is a sound. Like Michael Jackson's pop, Cyndi Lauper's pop, Celine Dion is mom pop. But this new wave of like Ed Sheeran, right? All of his concerts are just acoustic guitar. That's folky but pop. You got
it's still pop.
Lumineers. You've got all these guys coming up, but
I love them.
Yeah. I mean, like that's so in a sense, folk is like a really broad genre. But like, tell me some other artists on your.
Okay. So I'm a big oldies girl.
Great.
That's my playlist, my oldies playlist, and you just. Oh gosh,
like how old of oldies?
Okay.
Like the 20s, 30s.
Like 50s to 80s.
Okay, that's good. That's actually pretty funny that you're calling those oldies. Like honestly, that's like the generational gap. Like I would consider anything before the 60s to be oldies, probably. But like 70s, 80s is still relevant to me. It feels pretty relevant. Have you listened through Carole King's Tapestry? That album? Oh my gosh, that's like one of the greatest albums.
Okay, well I'll listen after this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, oldies is awesome. Any contemporary artists that you're listening to?
Okay. This is
Are you a Swiftie?
No.
Okay, good.
Not really. Good, he said. Oh my gosh, that's funny because Claire Kent, the associate director of high school ministry, we were talking about like Taylor Swift, and I was like, I mean, I'm fine with her, but like I'm not a Swiftie, and she's like hardcore Swiftie.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I like some of her songs. She has a great song on the album that came out in 2019 or 2020, Lover. There's a song called Soon You'll Get Better. It features the Chicks, formerly the Dixie Chicks. But it's about her mom's cancer journey. But that's like one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. I love that song. But yeah, I can't say I'm a Swiftie.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. Like, there's a few songs.
Yeah, there's a few songs.
Well, is The Weeknd, would that be considered? That's contemporary, right?
You like The Weeknd?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Some of it.
Yeah. I haven't been able to quite get into him.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, but he doesn't emotionally resonate with me.
Yeah.
That's actually a really interesting thing, too, because it's like, do you feel that people are wired differently as far as what they emotionally resonate to in music and maybe in other things too?
Oh, for sure.
Like, so
100%.
So I you might know this, but I'm a metalhead. I listen to stuff that people generally find really distasteful.
Yeah.
But like, I love it. And actually, I met Aaron a couple of weeks ago, Bald Aaron.
Yeah.
Who also is into metal.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, cool. Like, we bonded over this.
Yeah.
But like, I really enjoy listening to music that is angry, but I also feel is like emotionally validated in that way. I feel like a lot of pop is like fluff and just stuff that I don't care about.
Yeah.
But I love complicated music. I love metal. I love classical music. But yeah, and I feel like you have to be on a certain wavelength maybe to like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, it's interesting. People's tastes are very different.
Right. Yeah. But at the same time, like how does that translate to worship, for example?
Yeah.
I love it when people like butt heads over like, let's sing 90s worship songs versus like the contemporary stuff that's going on. I mean, we were just talking about this. Like, how do you find that balance? Like when you're in your space of worship, like, what do you sing? Like, how would you encourage someone who is wired in a certain way to like want to listen to something else or want to,
I love this question. And before I answer this question, Greta Van Fleet.
Really? You like them? I don't know. I feel like they're just trying too hard to be a Led Zeppelin knockoff.
Okay. Well, I just had to say that before we moved on because
that's cool. I'll listen to them after
this
conversation.
In terms of worship, so I've actually been discovering a ton this year in terms of like what I love to sing and what like I feel is like pleasing to God, and like, no, like I know that worship just pleases God. No, if your heart's in the right place, it just does. Right. But like, what do I sing that's like the most aligned with His word, And like, okay, so upper room worship is like my all-time favorite worship team, but more their like church, and their heart and their ministry. But like their style is super like open to spontaneous like worship, like I mean their songs are 18 minutes long because they'll start with a song and then they'll go on and sing this chorus 20 times because in that moment it's just what God deserves, you know what I mean? Right. And like I love that, and like in the prayer room we do that all the time because the sets are 2 hours, and I mean sometimes we plan no songs and we literally just show up and we're like, okay, maybe start a song and then just see where it goes. Or like this Monday, we spent like an hour and a half writing music during like the worship. Like
that's cool.
We just like found a cool melody, and then like I opened the Bible and I just was like, okay, let me like put this into words, and like I mean it's pretty much tons of songs are already written for us, it's just how do we put it to music? And like I just love like openness to like go where the Holy Spirit leads, and that's not dependent on a feeling, which is interesting, like the Holy Spirit like nudge is there, but like I want to always be able to just like give God praise when I have I don't have this emotional feeling about singing a song, like sometimes I'll sing a song because I know it's true, not because I feel it's true,
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, and that's hard, but like God's worthy still, even when I don't feel it. I love like that chorus and that bridge in Waymaker. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. He's worthy even when we are frail.
That's deep because, I feel like a lot of one of my favorite Sundays, I've talked about this before on this podcast, was, I don't know, 6 years ago, a hawk flew into a transformer and like we had a blackout.
Oh, wow.
And so no power, and Wayne just like acoustic guitar, and like Dave and Sam had their acoustic guitars, and they just kind of circled around in the middle, like where the sound booth is. Everything was off, and this is kind of what you had to do, but it felt so pure. It was it's like you didn't have any of the lights, you didn't have any of the amplification, nothing. And not to say that any of that's bad. Like some people, and me included, like worship through playing an instrument, and I think that's awesome.
Because it's art,
right? It's art, and it's being creative. But there was something about that where it's like, oh, I'm just gonna say these words. I'm gonna try to sing what everyone else is singing, and we're just gonna do it together. And it's not so much like the loudness or the colorfulness of things. Emotionally makes me like want to do it. It's just like I know I need to do this. And wow, that's really cool coming from an 18-year-old. Like that's a hard thing to get.
Yeah. Or just singing something simple is so like, it's just as good. You know, it doesn't have to be a complicated lyric to give God glory. Like the other day, like one of the Upper Room songs, it was completely spontaneous, and all they do is sing like beautiful, wonderful, glorious, matchless in every way for like 15 minutes. Just like those 4 words: beautiful, wonderful, glorious, matchless in every way. And like I was seeing that the other day, and like I was just like all in, you know, because it's true. It's so true, you know, and it's so simple. It's just like 4 words describing who God is, and that's like all you need to say sometimes, you know.
Wow.
So
that's awesome. Yeah. Dang. Well, what outside of moving to England and like becoming an adult?
Oh gosh.
What's on your plate next couple of days? Like what are you doing? What are you excited about? Like what's your next step outside of all these big things that are about to happen?
Outside of big things, a lot of it's like really like small things in preparation for big things that are just
do you have any hobbies? Like are you like painting something right now, or
oh gosh, okay. I love reading. I'm a bit of a nerd.
Great.
So ask me about Charles Dickens, and like,
are you reading Charles Dickens recreationally?
Yes.
Wow, that is another level.
My goal before I die is to read everything he's ever written, which is...
Well, that's not too bad. Like,
oh yeah, but you have no... I don't even like. I'm like, did you have a life outside of writing? Because literally, he's written like...
You want to know something amazing?
60 books.
Wait, really?
Yes. It's crazy, and they're all like
novels. So there's this amazing book called Rest by this professor at Stanford, Alex Pong. But it's about like really some of the most creative, productive leaders in their fields, and like what their routine was. And he discovered that many of them, Dickens included, only worked like 3 hours a day. Like they would sit and focus and be like, I'm going to work this much. And then the rest of the time they would just chill. But like actively, not like be a couch potato, but like Charles Dickens would walk like 6 hours a day and think and like not actually be working, but just like, and that's just what he did.
Active rest,
Right, active rest. You think about like Thomas Edison, same thing. Stephen King, same thing. Even if I'm about to say this, like Darwin, you know, a lot of their habits, routines were like they would only work 3 to 4 hours a day, maybe, and then the rest of the day would be active leisure time. But I don't know. I just think it's really cool. You know, you bringing up Dickens that made me think about like, how can I be more productive with my life?
How can I actively rest?
Though? How can I write 60 books in one lifetime?
It's wild.
Wow.
I also am like, I've talked to Steven a lot about this. I'm like super like excited about songwriting right now.
Yes.
Like I love that. I'm so excited too to have like more time, because actually when I'm at school, like we have classes in the morning and in the evening, and then we have like a big chunk of time of free time in between the classes. Everyone takes the same classes at the school, and like there's just beautiful views, and I just want to go like write.
Awesome.
So
do you feel like you're gonna write worship music or just anything?
I think both.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think
awesome.
Both.
Has he told you about the Hawaii Songwriting Festival?
Yes, he did.
Oh my gosh, you would
it.
totally fit the vibe. Like, you should definitely go. It'd be a lot of fun.
That would be so cool. Yeah, we talked quite a bit about it.
That was that festival has made a massive impact on my life. But there have been very amazing. I actually wrote like well, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the first time that it came, well, when it came back last year, there was this one night that was just absolutely insane. And basically we like woke up, had to do sound check, had to play a gig, played the gig, and then over a course of unfortunate events, like we got locked out of the car rental place, return place, had to stay out for a long time, and then we had friends drive up an hour to pick us up and our gear, like all of our equipment. And then as we were driving, we found like this random lady in the middle of the highway. This is in Hawaii, so no lights or anything. She was just like screaming, ah! And we're like, what's going on? Called the cops, and then got pulled over by the cops because one of our taillights was out. And then ultimately ended up showing up and finding lodging at this at the house of this man named David and his husband Chris. They were just the sweetest guy. I met them that day, and they were just like, yeah, you can come and stay at our place. But there were so many just moments of like, oh man, we were, despite how much everything sucked that night, like we were all supposed to be here in these moments at this time, at this exact time.
Cool.
And actually, David.
What a story.
yeah. I mean, I literally wrote like an essay, and we had one of our departmental meetings, and I shared the whole thing.
That's fun.
And it, that story's still continuing. So David, the man whose house we stayed at, he came back to the festival this year, and he has serious cancer. Like, I didn't even recognize him.
Wow.
And it was just like a really touching moment in that like he didn't know me at all, but he allowed me and the other guys on our crew, and we were all smelly, and it was like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. when we showed up at his house, like just to stay at his place, like to be able to open up your home in that way. Anyways, it made a profound impact on my life. But well, you're awesome. Thanks for appearing on my little podcast and sitting in this dark, windowless, somewhat air-conditioned room. But really appreciate you sharing your heart and your thoughts. And I know that people are going to listen to this and just be inspired by young people like you. So thank you. And hope to have you back on next time. If I don't see you before then, good luck in England. I hope you have a safe flight. I hope you meet lots of awesome people and write awesome songs.
And play in the airport.
And play in the airport. Yeah. And I'm going to hold you accountable to that.
Oh, I will. Now I'm excited.
Yeah, you got to like story that or like go Instagram Live and I'll tip you $1. But it's going to be awesome. Well, hey, thanks for joining us at Grace at Night. We'll see you on the next one.